would still be in Atlanta, in a secondary market doing, maybe, a radio show that was like, marginally syndicated. And look at what Sean Hannity, we just have 2 minutes here. Let's play this. This is what Sean Hannity is is talking about last night. Is he like, this is stunning. Right now they're passing $1.9 trillion. They're gonna, and here it is.
But you're just another limousine, liberal socialist, hypocritical asshole who does nothing but spew anti-GOP hate and has virtually nothing positive or productive to add to any political dialogue. He's
talking about Seth Meyers. Yeah. He's not even talking about,
And is anti-GOP hate, are they a protected class? I was unaware.
But, let's be clear here. He's not even talking about a late-night talk show host. He's talking about a late night talk.
He's talking, yeah.
That's like stunning to me.
Headline news.
That's what they're deploying. But Alex,
Rush in like 1999 getting real pissed about Conan O'Brien. Can you imagine?
Right. Well, this would be the functional equivalent of him getting pissed about Conan O'Brien in 2008. Like, dude, like, really? Or Carson Daly for that. Yeah. All right. Well, Alex Breen, always a pleasure. Folks can check out your writing at the New Republic and listen to your podcast, The Politics of Everything. Thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Sam and Emma.
Thanks.
All right. Quick break. We'll be right back to wrap it up. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. We're wrapping up our week. We will be back on, Emma will be back on Monday. I'll be on vacation. Nice. We will be taking a break from Peacock, but you can look at our second hour show on Peacock. We do some interviews every day, 2 long form interviews. Plays at 5 p.m. I think they may run it as well at 10 p.m. You'll catch up on some of the ones that we've missed. You can find that on the Choice channel on the Peacock app. Check it out. I think you will enjoy it. In the meantime, have a great weekend. And I guess we will be keeping an eye on that Bessemer election. Finishes up on Monday. Don't know when we'll get the results, but we will see. Have a great weekend. And for those of you who are staying, smart move.
Yeah. Casual Friday, folks.
Casual Friday. You can see soft collar shirt. I'm wearing it right now. And do we have Carl? That's not his real name, but that's
admitting Carl now.
Okay. So, all right. Want to welcome to the program Carl Behar. That is a pseudonym. Carl, how would you describe? You have you're an essayist, a columnist.
Yeah, I'm an essayist, I would say. Yeah.
And where can people find your work? Obviously on Twitter, but
yeah.
And then where else can they read your stuff?
If you just go to my website at carlbeijer.com, that's CarlBeijer. And I'm also at Jacobin sometimes, a couple other places in these times, places like that.
All right, so here, let me just set the table as to why I wanted John, because you sent me a DM, and you're writing a piece that to cut. Well, why don't you tell us what the piece is, and then I'll read off the questions, because this is I thought it would be fun to just have this conversation on air. But tell us, give us just a sense of the piece you're going to write.
Okay, so honestly, it's barely even a piece. What I want to do is I was going around surveying journalists and policy people and other people, and just asking them some basic questions about socialism and where they come down on these issues. And they're just yes or no questions, basically, insofar as they feel like they can answer yes or no.
And that was the thing for me. This is harder, and I sort of want to. One of the things I'm interested in is just sort of exploring why I find it hard that way. But so here's the questions. One is, do you consider yourself a socialist? Two, do you think the economy should ultimately be subject to management through the state? Three, do you support the abolition of private property as opposed to personal property? And four, do you think that a capitalist economy ultimately can be reformed in a way that is reasonably non-exploitive of workers? All right. So one, the only one that I feel like I could answer yes or no was basically, do you consider yourself a socialist? I don't. I mean, I don't in general. Here, I don't. It was just I should have given it to you too.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's not. It was just
behind the scenes. I texted in our G chat, and someone sent that to me.
I will send. I will try and send it to you.
Okay.
But so, because I don't really. I mean, I've always been averse, or never found it necessary, really, to identify the specifics of my political project. I don't even think in that way. And I think if I was ever to call myself a socialist, I think socialists would get mad and say that I'm not. And I don't consider myself that way. But let's do this. Do you consider yourself a socialist, and why?
Yes, I do. And the reason why, so to me, it's straightforward. When we talk about, say, intersectional analysis of oppression, nobody has a problem calling themselves a feminist. Nobody has a problem calling themselves an anti-racist. All these different kinds of oppression, it's very easy for them to say, yeah, I don't agree with this. But then when we start talking about the exploitation of workers and the oppression of workers, suddenly the question becomes very complicated, and people don't feel comfortable with saying, no, I oppose that. I am not okay with that. And, so when we talk about socialism, we're talking about a specific program to end these problems in much the same way as anti-racism is a specific program to end the problem of racism.
But for instance, I am against the exploitation of workers. I guess maybe it's, that takes us down to 4 when we talk about what reasonable means. But I feel like I'm against the exploitation of workers.
Okay.
I feel like the bar to socialism is higher. I mean, I don't, mm-hmm. I mean, I probably, if I don't know, maybe I identify as a feminist, I probably would say I'm feministic. Maybe. I mean, I tend not to do that anyways, but mm-hmm. If I'm against the exploitation of workers, mm-hmm. right? Really, I mean, by exploitation of workers, are we just talking about any type of hiring relationship?
We are talking about just the extraction of their surplus value when they work. They have worked for this, and yet they don't get it because they're being exploited. And we're talking about all the different conditions that emerge from capitalism, terrible work conditions, long hours, all of the stuff that I would argue is a direct inevitable consequence of a capitalist economy. So for me, it's very straightforward to say, yes, I oppose these things, therefore I am a socialist.
So a good question might be, do you think exploitation of workers is inherent to is inextricable from capitalism?
Well, actually, that is the fourth question that he does ask.
Well, I skimmed it.
Hold on. But all right, so let's jump to well, I mean, I want to do the order that you have in there, Justice. So number two, okay. So number two, do you think the economy should ultimately be subject to management through the state? I think it already is subject. I think it's just the problem I would have with it right now is that it's managed for the benefit of the wrong people.
Mm-hmm. So we do have cases where the government simply is not allowed to do certain things with property. We have rules about when eminent domain is and is not allowed to seize property. We have rules. That's like 90% of the law, right? Property is the law. So we do have all these rules that their major function is to restrict the government from exercising unlimited control over property. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't exercise any control over property. They obviously do, and they do it in a way that benefits the rich. But if the overwhelming majority of Americans today were to say something, were to make a decision like we want to tax the rich, which is extremely popular, or we want to, we want limits on gun control, which is a private property issue in a way. We can't do that. We have all of these limits in place in our government to prevent the Democratic majority from exercising unlimited control over property.
But isn't that, don't we have that as a function? That is the way in which the state is managing, right? Those things. The state, in my mind, the state sets up this. It's not like some third party has created these rules. Although, I suppose you could argue maybe with gun control. With the Second Amendment, you could argue that the Supreme Court has sort of imposed their interpretation on it, which was a fairly novel interpretation as of 15 years ago. But these laws, all of these laws, come from the state, right? That's my point. Is that the state is managing it by saying we're going to, setting up the system as if it was like a third party that created these laws.
Mm-hmm. That's where I think some of the ambiguity of these questions always comes in, because it becomes a question of, it becomes a question of, to what extent are people exercising control over the economy through the state? So we have things like the Fourth Amendment, which limits unreasonable searches and seizures and stuff like that. That doesn't just protect innocent people and good people. That also ends up protecting capital in a lot of ways. We cannot exercise control over property without overturning that amendment. So yeah, in theory, you could rewrite the Constitution, I suppose, have a constitutional convention or pass an amendment or whatever. And so you could say in that kind of, I think it's a very remote academic sense that people are exercising control over the economy through the state. But I would not say that, in fact, that's really what's going on. We have all of these institutionalized barriers that prevent that from happening.
So, so if you were to answer number two, do you think the economy should ultimately be subject to the management through the state? You would answer no.
No, I would answer yes. Absolutely. I think that the state is the instrument through which people manage the economy, and I think that's not what is going on at this point. Because